Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. This is actually my first video, so today I just want to share a few observations about some recent movements in the market. Just to be clear, this video is only for informational and educational purposes. I'm not giving any financial advice here. I'm simply discussing what has been happening recently and sharing a few thoughts. In this video, we'll briefly talk about HIMS, look at some developments related to Strategy and Michael Saylor, and also touch on what's happening with Bitcoin and overall market sentiment. So let's start with HIMS. Many people know that HIMS is considered one of the more volatile stocks in the market. Price movements in this stock can sometimes be quite large over short periods of time, which makes it an interesting company to watch. Recently, HIMS moved up around 50% within just 2 days. Moves like that highlight how quickly certain stocks can change direction. Similar rapid movements have happened before in different companies, so this kind of volatility is not entirely unusual in growth-focused businesses. Looking at the company from a broader perspective, there has been a lot of discussion about its long-term potential. In the past, there were several bearish arguments surrounding the company, but some of those concerns appear to have become less prominent recently. Because of that, the conversation around the company has started to shift again. When people look at valuation metrics, they often compare things like enterprise value relative to revenue, gross profit, or adjusted EBITDA. Based on some of those numbers, the company appears relatively modestly valued compared to other businesses that also focus heavily on growth. Revenue projections going out toward 2030 are also quite high according to the company's guidance, which is why the stock continues to attract attention. Another notable part of the company's business model is that a large portion of its revenue is recurring. Recurring revenue is something many investors and analysts watch closely because it can provide more predictable income streams for a company over time. Now shifting to another topic, Strategy and Michael Saylor. Recently, Saylor has been strongly emphasizing something referred to as stretch. If you looked at the latest 8K filing, much of the discussion around the ATM program focused mainly on stretch and common shares rather than other preferred structures. Today was actually a frustrating day for the broader market overall. Markets moved down, then suddenly moved up after some reports about U.S. tanker escorts in the Middle East. Later, those reports were clarified by the Department of Defense, and the market moved downward again. It was definitely one of those days where sentiment changed very quickly. Interestingly, though, stretch remained relatively stable during the day. It traded very close to the $100 level, sometimes just a few cents above or below depending on the time of day. Situations like that sometimes create very small pricing differences that certain market participants pay attention to. Volume around this activity has also been extremely high. Recently, there was around $297 million in volume, which is quite significant. When activity reaches those levels, it often indicates strong market interest and increased participation. Some estimates circulating online suggest that recent activity could correspond to a large number of Bitcoin being associated with these capital movements, although exact figures can vary depending on how they are calculated. More recent volume levels appear to be even higher, which has made the situation particularly interesting for people following the company closely. Finally, let's briefly talk about Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin has recently been showing signs of behaving more like a risk-off asset again. The Fear and Greed Index has been around 25, which still reflects fear in the market but is slightly higher than previous readings. If sentiment continues improving gradually, the index could eventually move back toward neutral territory. In the past, movements in crypto markets have sometimes happened earlier than movements in traditional equity markets. Because of that, some people watch crypto sentiment as an early signal of broader market mood. One final observation. Today, Bitcoin moved slightly higher while Strategy stock moved lower. When situations like this happen, people often look at company activity or broader market mechanics to understand what might be influencing price behavior. So that's a quick overview of what's been happening recently with HIMS, Strategy, and Bitcoin. Again, this video was simply a discussion of recent developments and observations in the market. Since this is my first video, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you found the video interesting, you can also subscribe for more discussions like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.